Okay, so hello everybody. I'm Kirsty, and this is Dan over here, and I have a volunteer as well with us today. So we're from the Computational Biology Facility at the University of Liverpool, and today we're going to do a interactive Python programming workshop with you. Okay, so first off, who am I? Like I said, I'm Kirsty. I'm a doctor of biology. I recently graduated just on Wednesday, and Dan graduated on Friday. So I didn't always know that I liked computational biology. In fact, during my undergraduate, you can see I thought I was into sort of field biology, and I went and lived in Ecuador and tried doing a variety of different field biology techniques, and I found it very frustrating because things died, I couldn't control them, and I felt like I never got very good results. So when I came back from there and I finished my degree in plant science, I next moved over to the lab. So I worked in the lab for about 5 years, and this is me during my PhD project. And again, I worked on plants, looking at the evolution of the seed. And I enjoyed it for a long time, but again, plants take a long time to grow. Sometimes experiments go wrong and you can work for weeks and weeks and weeks, and it's really frustrating when it doesn't work. So in those periods, I started to learn to code. So I only learned to code around 4 to 5 years ago. So you guys have got a big head start on me. And once I finished my PhD, that's when I joined the computational biology facility. And now I work purely at a laptop, analyzing data. I don't have to go in the lab, I don't have to go in the field, and I'm very happy. So what we're going to do today is we're going to learn a little bit about aging and how long different animals live. And we're going to give you a hands-on introduction to Python. So Python is a programming language that it's not just used by scientists, it's used in lots of different fields, so it's a really great one to learn. Oops. And just to note that these activities we're going to do with you today are under active development. We do teach them to different schools in Liverpool, so we really welcome your feedback and any ideas you have to make it better, anything that you really enjoyed. Okay, so to start off, I'm going to ask you to think of the oldest animal you can, the animal that lives the longest. I can't see online, so maybe Dan could shout out if anybody has any suggestions. Do we have any in the room for the oldest animal? I'm going to start you off with a turtle. They live quite long, or a tortoise. No. Any suggestions, Dan? Is everyone being shy?
Goldfish.
Goldfish?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not sure they live that. Do they live a long time? Okay, anyway, so what I'll do is...
Whales.
A what?
Whales.
Okay, yeah. Sharks. They live quite a long time, don't they? So moving on, why do we care what the longest living animal is? What can that really tell us? Well, we all age, and most humans live to sort of 80 to 100 years old. And, you go from a baby all the way through to an old lady or man. And with aging, you get grey hair, get wrinkles, we start to move slower, we're not able to do what we could before. And as humans, we don't really like that, and we actually want to try and live as long as we can and be healthy whilst we're living longer. And we can use animals and study animals, and especially ones that live for a long time, to try and tell us, what are they doing that we could also do. So in terms of why we age and the science of aging, I'm sure you've learned in science at school that our bodies are made up of cells, and as we get older, our cells can become damaged, They don't work as well. Our DNA might change. There's things called telomeres on the end of our DNA that shorten over time that also contribute to aging. And yeah, our bodies change and we become older. And like I said, things like your genetics can influence your age, how quickly you age, and that can be in the DNA that you inherit from your parents. It can also be to do with your lifestyle. If you eat a lot of McDonald's and you smoke and you don't exercise or you vape, that can decrease and shorten your lifespan. And obviously, there's also the environment. Pollution and exposure to sunlight can also make us age quicker. So that's why it's really important as young people to make sure that you've got a healthy diet, you're exercising, and you're not smoking or vaping if you want to live as long as possible. But why is it important to sort of study this? Well, it's so that we live a lot longer. So I'm going to ask you now, hopefully somebody's got some ideas of how old these different animals are. So this one is a rat. Can anyone give me a guess of how long you think a rat could live for? Anybody? Anybody online?
I'll guess on this side.
4 years?
I'll
Go
guess
on.
5 years.
5 years, okay. 4 years?
Someone said on 4 years online.
4 years? Okay, 4 years is a really good guess. So a rat can live for 3.8 years. So yeah, 4 years was a great guess. And then a different rodent, a strange looking rodent, is the naked mole rat. So this one lives for quite a long time. Can anybody sort of guess? Give me a guess. 150?
50.
50? 50's closer, yeah.
7. Someone said 7
7.
online. Yeah.
It's a good guess, but it's longer than that. So it's actually 31 years these can live for, which is really, really quite a long time for a rodent. And this one here, we've got a albatross. Any guesses? If the clue is that it's getting longer with each animal, so we've gone from 3.8 to 31. Any guesses on how old an albatross can live until?
70.
Ooh, good guess.
60
74.
online.
What have we got?
60 online.
60. So it's 74. And when my colleague gives this talk, she always mentions that this particular albatross, which I can't remember the name of, but she is the 74-year-old albatross. Usually albatross are sole mating, so they have one partner for life, but her partners keep dying. So she's had many partners throughout her lifetime, and she's still going strong. And finally, we've got a glass sponge. Any guesses how long these might live for?
It's immortal. Practically.
How
Eight.
long?
Immortal.
Immortal.
We've got
I
2
mean,
online. One says 70, one 800.
So I guess immortal's maybe a little bit autistic, but 15,000 years.
Oh.
Maybe longer. Maybe we only know that's how long live. Maybe they'll just keep going. I don't know. Okay, so with that, today, this is the activity that we're going to be showing you through. I'm actually going to switch it because on this one, the link is bigger. Okay, so we're going to be going through a Python workshop. So I want you to, in your browsers at home or here, you can type in this link here. So it's tinyurl.com/Python aging. And when you get onto it, it will look like this panel on the left, and there will be a link. It says click this link. So if you right click that and open in a new tab, so that you have both open. And I'm just going to check if I show them. Okay. So hopefully you can still hear me online. So just to remind you that the URL that I want you to type in is tinyurl.com/Python-aging. Will I be able to show it to these guys as well? Or will it only come up on the... Yeah.
If you duplicate the screen. Should be able to get it.
Okay, brilliant, thank you. Okay, so we got there in the end. So if you've typed in that link, tinyurl.com/Python aging, you should see a screen like this. So what I want you to do is right click on the link there and open it in a second tab. So you've still got this one up, and that can take a little moment to load. And what we have on this web page is first a little introduction and telling you how to use the platform. And then our main activity, you can either click on the sidebar or down at the bottom, go to main activity. And this is the main thing that we're going to be working on today. If you find you go through it really quickly, then we also have an advanced activity, but don't feel like you need to get that far. Just work at your own pace. And we're gonna, okay, so now that it's loaded up, I can show you an example. So if we scroll down to the first chunk, you see these gray boxes here. These are where we're going to type code in. So if we go back over to our web page and find some code, let's go to the home page. So here we have a little code block that says print, I'm a Python code block. If you hover over it, you see this little clipboard appears. So if you click on that, then it will copy the code. And then if we move over into our code block, and
So, I think we might not be able to see the screen online. I think.
9 people.
It's just showing you at the moment.
oh, online.
Jupiter. Okay, I was pressing share earlier on. Share. Window. Share. Jupiter
Can you
Lab.
see that now?
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. Okay. Right. Second time. We'll try again. Okay. So we've got our first web page, and we click on. I'm not going to do it again, but if you right click and open link in new tab, it will load, and then it will open up this Jupyter Lab notebook. And then we have chunks of code throughout, like this one here. And if you click on the clipboard, you can copy. Go over to the Jupyter Lab and right-click. Oh, actually, right-click doesn't work within Python, so you need to Control and V to paste. And now, to play that bit of code, we click on this little triangle button that means play. As you can see below now, it's printed out, I am a Python code block. So it's really important that we don't type on the same line as a hashtag, because if we were to do that, so if we were to put print I am a cat, oops, Control V, we're able to put it on this line, and let's just get rid of this line. So now if we press play, which is this, make sure you're hovering in there and press play, you see nothing prints, because that hashtag tells Python to ignore this line of code. So if we want it to run, we need to make sure there's no hashtag, and we're starting exactly. And if you have even a bit of text in front of that print statement and you try and press play, you're going to get an error. So just make sure when you copy and paste in, it's always on a fresh line. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. If you're having any problems in the room, you can ask one of us, me or Dan, or a volunteer. And also online, if you're having any issues, just put a message in the chat. We can also monitor that, and we have a few other people online monitoring as well. So with that, I think the best thing to do is to just have a go. Let's work through until about, let's say, 15:15, 4, and we can regroup, have a little refresher, and get back to it again. All good? Okay. Through again. So people in the room, carry on with what you're doing. I'm just going to show everyone online again how to navigate the platform. Okay, so what we're going to do is we'll start from the beginning. So in a new browser, if you type in tinyurl.com/python, Python.
Do you need to be on?
So, 4th time lucky. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to type in that tinyurl.com/Python agent, and that will bring you to this web page here. And what I want you to do is where it says this link, if you right click on that link and open in a new tab. So right click, open link in new tab, and that will open up here. So this can take a couple of seconds to minutes just to load. So here we go. Let's get rid of that. Okay, and you see this is the workbook that you're going to enter the code into, whereas this is the workbook that has your instructions and also has some little questions throughout. Okay, so the way that the Jupyter Notebook works is we have little blocks where you can enter code. So if we scroll down to the first one, they all say something like code goes here. Okay, so if you want to enter some code, make sure you go onto a new line, so not in the same line as this hashtag, and then go back to your workbook and copy the code. So if you hover over this block here, you'll see a little copy clipboard. So if you press that, it will copy. Go back over to our Jupyter Lab, and to paste, we Control and V on Windows or Command and V on Mac. And now to play this, make sure that your cursor is clicked within the block and press on this triangle button here, and that will run your code block. So what I was saying before was make sure you don't write on the same line as a hashtag, because if we do that, so if we paste again, oops, so Control and V, and then try, get rid of this one, and try to run it again, you'll see now nothing comes out. And that's because this hashtag tells Python to skip anything on that particular line. So if we want it to not be skipped, we need to make sure it's on a new line, and you'll see it changes color as well. So that's how you run a code block. So for the rest of the session, if you follow along in here, that it should match up. So if we go to our main activity, the first thing, make sure you're reading all the instructions. So they should be able to talk you through anyway, and just follow along. And when you come to some code, make sure you copy it and find the exact same code, same part in the Jupyter Notebook, like here, and Control V, and as you see now, we've got our code here, press play, and it will go. If you just go ahead and have a go, and if you're still struggling, just let me or Dan know. Okay. And, oops. Okay, so for people online, they're still a little bit confused about how we are running the session. So what we need to do is on the website link, the static website link that I showed you, which is the tiny URL, once you've gotten onto that, make sure that you click on the activity page. So main activity page here, and it starts at the top with plotting with Python. And then within your Jupyter Notebook, if you put them side by side, you'll see they look quite similar. So we have the same bits of text. The only difference is that this Jupyter Lab has the ability for you to run your code. So if we move down them together, so you can see that they all match up. Keep going. So in our first bit of code that we need to input into the Jupyter Notebook is here. So load packages, and you'll see I've actually already filled it in. Let's pretend I didn't. Okay, so in our first little chunk here, it will look like a little gray box that says code goes here. If you click into it and then press enter, so you want a new line, and go over to your code in the website and click to copy the code, and then move back over to the Jupyter Notebook, and we're going to paste. So to paste into a Jupyter Notebook, you need to, on your keyboard, you hold Control and V together. And if you're on a Mac, it would be Command and V. And then to run this, so this first line, 2 lines of code, what they're doing is just loading in 2 packages that we're going to use later. So when you press play, you'll notice that nothing comes out on the screen, but that's okay because we weren't expecting it to. So if we keep moving down, let's load the data. So you can see we've got a chunk here that we need to find the code. So if we move down our notebook again, not our notebook, sorry, our website, and find load the data, there it is. And here's the code to load the data. So again, if you hover over, you'll see that clipboard. So if you click on the clipboard, move back over to your Jupyter Lab notebook and Control and V, and it will paste. And then to get your data loaded in, make sure you run the chunk. So click within the box and then press the play button and it will run. And then if you want to check that you've actually loaded your data, in the next chunk down, if we type in data and run that, you'll see that we have our data loaded in. So I'm going to keep this up, and if we've got more questions, then I'll answer them. Okay, so keep working if you know what if you're getting on and you're fine. But what I'm going to do is for people online and here, if you want to look, I'm just going to talk you through one of the first few challenges. So if we go all the way down to inspect and format data, right, I've realized I'm going to actually need to enter everything. So let's quickly go through and paste. So we're going to load the packages, load the data, check our data. Okay. So down to inspect and format data. Okay. So hopefully you've run this little bit of code already. We Control and V to paste and enter. And what this piece of code has done is show you the 8 longest living animals. So what we've got here is some code that says oldest animals, and we've taken our data and we've sorted it with a function called sort values. And then we've sorted it by maximum longevity in years, and told it that we want to sort not by ascending order. So we want it to sort by descending order, which means we'll go from the biggest down to the smallest. And then dot head, this bit on the end, is telling it to only take the top 8 data points. And then we printed it out and we can see that the top 8 longest living animals are these. Okay, so that's all good. And then we ask you if you can do a few things. So given what I've just told you as well, let's look at the question. So what does dot sort values ascending equals false mean? So I just told you that it sorts our data from biggest to smallest. And then if you can remember, what does dot head with 8 in brackets do? That will select the top 8 rows of data. Okay, so for our first challenge, we asked you if you could modify that piece of code above, so this one here, and find the 12 most long-lived animals. Okay, so if we paste in that piece of code again, Control and V, And if you remember what I told you, this is the piece of code that we need to change. So far, what we've said is give us the top 8 animals. So if we want the top 12, we need to change this number here from 8 to 12. And if we run that again, now you'll see we've actually got 12 animals. And then I asked the question, what is the 10th longest lived animal? Now, this was like, I was slightly trying to trip you up, because if you'd have just looked at your numbers here and seen 10, you said, okay, the 10th longest lived animal is a killer whale. But if we put killer whale here, you'll see that it's not right. And that's because Python starts indexing at 0 rather than 1. So our first value is 0, our second value is 1, our third is 2, and so on, meaning that our 10th entry is actually indexed at number 9. So if you would have realized this, well done. The answer was lobster. Okay. And then in the second challenge, we asked if you could make a different variable called shortest lived animals that finds the 10 most short-lived animals. So if we go down to challenge 2 and paste our bit of code again, so we want the 12 shortest lived. So remember we changed head 8 to 12. Now that's halfway there, but if we run that now, what we've got is the longest lived. So to get the shortest lived, if you remember, I told you that this part of the code here is telling Python to list our values from biggest to smallest. If we want it to go in the opposite direction, we change ascending equals false to ascending equals true. And now if we play that, you'll see we've now got the animals with the shortest lifespans. And in our question here, we asked which animal only lives for a maximum of 0.27 years. And if we look here, we've got 0.27, and that is a bumblebee. So if we type in bumblebee, and yep, there we've got the correct answer. So I hope that was helpful. And if you have any questions about that, I'll just wait here and Dan can. It's okay. Okay. Right, so if you missed online, I will go through it quickly again. So if we start from the top of inspect and format data, you should have copied and pasted this bit of code here that finds the top 8 longest living animals. So if we hover and click copy, and then we're going to paste it. Let's get rid of that. And Control and V, and we paste here. And this shows us the top 8 longest living animals. Okay. And then we've got some questions here, which sort of talk you through what's happening in this piece of code. So what we're saying is make a new variable called oldest animals. And that's going to be taken from data, which is our big table of animal data. And we're going to sort those values by the column that's maximum longevity, which is the age of the animals. And we're going to sort it in a descending order because we're told it not to sort in ascending order. That's what false means. So for this question, what does sort values ascending equals false mean? It means that we want it to sort the data from biggest to smallest. Okay. And then this little bit of code on the end, after all of this has happened, we then tell Python, we don't want you to return the whole data frame. We just want the top 8 values. And we get that by saying dot head with 8 in brackets. And that selects the top 8 rows of data. Okay, so for the challenges, first we asked you, can you modify that piece of code? So if I delete again and paste our code, so we want to modify this to get the top 12 longest lived animals. So if you remember what the head 8 part of the code means, in order to get 12 instead of 8, we change that number to 12. We could change it to anything. If we say 3 and press play. Oh, that didn't work. Oh, it did. Okay. So we've only got 3 animals here now. But we want 12, so if you change to 12 and press play, you can see we've got the 12 longest lived animals. To make it make sense, let's change this little sentence as well. So it says the 12. And there we go. And then it asks you what the 10th longest lived animal is. And that would be the lobster. Because even though it says 9 here, you'll see that we start counting at 0. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Lobster would be the 10th longest lived. Okay, and then for the second challenge, we asked if you could make a new variable called shortest lived animals that has the 12 most short-lived animals. Okay, so if I paste in our old code again, and this time we want to change header equals 12 because we want 12 animals, but we also need to change this false to true because this time we want to order the data in ascending order from the smallest to the biggest. And what I forgot to say last time is we also need to change this variable name. So this time we're getting the shortest lived animals. And we also need to change this statement. So we're going to say the 12 shortest living animals in this data set are. So now if you press play, now we can see we've got the 12 shortest lived animals. Oh, I forgot to do something. Can you spot what I've done? Oh, I know what I've done. So I've changed the name of our variable here to shortest lived animals, and I've forgotten to change it here. So I'm calling the wrong thing. So if we also change that to shortest living animals. Oh, and now I've broken up. Shortest lived. There we go. I'll press play. There we go. Okay, so now we've got the 12 shortest lived animals. Okay. So we've got about 5 minutes left. So if you have final questions, just direct them to us now, and we will try and answer them as well as we can. This material will remain available on the YBS website, and you'll also be able to watch this over and over. So if you didn't understand it now, make sure you go away and spend a bit more time on it and see if you can work through it.